Mezco 112 Collective Deluxe Popeye is in the DorkLair. Welcome to another DorkLair action figure review. This here is the Mezco Direct Exclusive 112 Collective Deluxe Popeye. This went up for pre-order on their site on December 19th, so that's a pretty quick turnaround for a figure to be pre-order to release without it being a convention exclusive. The figure sold out in under an hour, and I did see a photo of the shipping carton. There were 200 cartons of 6. Therefore, the production estimate is 1,200, which is really low. Remember, these counts aren't all necessarily perfect or reliable, so, take them with a grain of salt. But it can be useful in trying to decide whether you should buy now or whether or not it's safe to wait for a bit. But, 1,200 is pretty low even for an exclusive. The regular release has been very popular, so if you want one, I'd probably recommend acting soon. My initial overall impressions of this guy are really nicely detailed, lots of good accessories, really great looking Popeye figure. This really sort of hyper-realistic look to him is really kind of neat. And then you got these pipes with the smoke coming out, and it's awesome packaging and just really, really cool release. I have a little issue with the fabric quality, I guess. Not the quality, but I guess like the density of the fabric is a little off for me. But we'll get to that in a little bit. For now, let's take a quick look at the packaging. As you can see, this thing comes in a really neat, exclusive deluxe tin. Really, the tin is the only thing that makes it deluxe beyond the regular release, as far as I know. I think they come with all the same accessories, but it is a really neat piece. It's kind of a cool display packaging that it comes in. Like nice weathered tin. Doesn't feel like any stickers are going to peel off or anything like that. It actually almost feels like it's all kind of printed on there. It's really nice quality tin. It's even got decoration on the bottom. On the top, you've got Popeye right there. So really, really nice packaging. And just so you can see it next to a regular release, just to get a sense of size, because it's kind of hard to tell. Here's a regular size package next to it, just like a regular release. So, I think in pictures it looks a lot bigger than it is. I thought it was going to be a lot bigger, but it's a nice size. I mean, it's not, it's like the size of a giant can of, crushed tomatoes rather than, say, spinach, but, you got to fit a figure in there. And then the packaging that's inside the tin where the figure is and the stand and stuff is all really compact, actually. It makes you kind of realize how somewhat excessive the regular packaging is in terms of its size and stuff, because everything that comes with him fits inside this shape. So really, really compact. They did a good job of getting everything to fit in there and like package things cleverly. Like you can see the bag is stuffed inside there. The stand was, I think, on the bottom here, and yeah, very compact. And real quickly, let's just go through some size comparisons with some other figures. Starting with some other Mezcos, I have the Batman v Superman Batman figure, and then I also have Spock. So you get a sense of the size there. The only other one Mezco figure I have with me right now is Darkseid. You can see how massive Darkseid is. You can't even see his head right now, but there's Darkseid. And moving along to other lines, the 7-inch King Kong, right there. Articulated icons, ninjas, that I have customized, very simple customizations to look like Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. And we have some Star Wars SH Figuarts Scout Trooper, and this is the Kotobukiya Yoda. And finally, the Mythic Legions Thistlethorn. Give you a sense of his size compared to some familiar lines. And getting into just the paintwork and details and on this guy, you can take a look at that really nicely detailed head sculpt. Lots of wrinkles, very, very expressive, very creepily realistic. He's got a little stubble going on. His flesh is sort of speckled, almost old man skin, maybe a little sun-bleached kind of skin. His neck's even got some gross wrinkles on it. Definitely not a cartoon-looking Popeye. That Mezco's vision is to have their figures kind of all fit into one world, whether it's a cartoon, a movie figure, a comic book character. And, quite frankly, Popeye has been all of those things. So, yeah. The eyes painted really nice. I mean, one's closed, but the open eye is painted well. You'll see a hole there. We'll get into that for the accessories, for the pipes. And then his arms, very similar thing. Again, old man skin, really nicely detailed. It's not subtle, but it's something that on first glance you're not going to notice that much. But if you look closely, you can see the difference between the unpainted joint and like the paintwork on that flesh. His tattoo is pretty crisp. And the hands. You can even see right in that fingernail, it's filthy. Like he's been working on some greasy boat engine or something. And then the boots, we'll get into his uniform in a minute, but the last thing in terms of sculpt and paintwork is the boots. There's no paint on the legs. There is some sculpting on the legs, but you can see the boots down here. Really nicely detailed. There's a little bit of dry brushing, it looks like, to give it a worn out look. And then you can see the rings, or lace rings or whatever, sculpted laces. Very nice, realistic looking boot. And the outfit itself, this is where I have a little bit of an issue. You're not going to see it like on the camera this way. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm going to stick a light behind him and see if we can see the effect that I'm talking about. So it's just not going to show up on camera, I don't think. It's like see-through almost. It's hard to see, so on camera you don't really notice it, and only in certain light do I see it, but it's like this uniform, you can almost see through it. It's not like a deal breaker or anything, I don't think it's terrible, but you can kind of see his flesh tone underneath. It's a little thin of a material, so I wish they had used something a little bit thicker, but at the same time, it's white, and if you use something thicker, you're going to end up with a figure that just looks puffy, or, it doesn't scale right with the figure. So I think that's the trade-off, and I think ultimately there's nothing you can really do about it. So I can't really fault the figure for having almost like a see-through kind of fabric. This tie kind of goes all the way around. It's one separate piece, goes all the way around. You can see a nice crisp blue line applied over the top here. I don't think it's paint or anything. I think it's like a iron-on type thing. There is some nice tailoring. So you have this seam across the front right here, and then you have these little buttons put on there, and then you have a seam down the side of the leg that's nice and clean, and it looks really good. Little bell bottoms going on. So other than the fact that it's really almost see-through, you can almost see it there, where you can see white right here, and you can almost see a slightly different shade because you're seeing the flesh instead of the white under there. But it's tough to pick up on camera. It's just a naked eye kind of thing. Right there, you can see it as well. And then starting off accessories with the other head sculpt, it's very, very similar, just a different smirk on the face. He's got that teeth open. If I put the can of spinach in his hand, I kind of get the I'm going to eat some spinach look on him with this mouth here. But both do have the little hole for the pipes. 2 different pipes, 3 of each type, I guess, if they break, which they're very, very tiny, and I could see them breaking pretty easily. So the first one has smoke actually coming out of it, and you want to come at a slightly downward angle when you stick the pipe in his mouth. It's not directly straight on, but you want to be very gentle with that pipe. It looks really good with that little smoke coming out of it. And then you have the unsmoking pipe, the regular pipe. And he comes with 3 different hats. 2 of them, this sailor's hat, have magnets on them, and they just pop right on his head, and they'll just kind of sit at a cut. There's a few different angles you can place it at, and it'll still sort of stay on his head. And then this other one also has a magnet. This is sort of like a other type of sailor's hat. I almost see like this one's sort of like a captain, and then this one's sort of like a crewman or something. And I don't know anything about the Navy, but somebody else can correct me in the comments below. Really nicely painted, really just grimy, nicely dirtied up hat here. Same thing right here with this hat too, really nice. And then the third hat is a winter hat type thing. And then that one just presses down on his head. So you just push it down. Has a nice woven sculpt to it. Kind of looks like a wool hat or something. Comes with 2 fists, 2 open hands. It comes with this other hand. I think you could do a few things with it. Like for one, it just barely fits a pipe in there. And then the other thing you can do is the duffel bag that he comes with. I think you can sling it over his shoulder with this hand. I think that's kind of what that hand's meant for. So you can take the duffel bag and thread it through his fingers. Tie it off, thread it through his fingers like this. And then have it kind of up over his shoulder. And speaking of the duffel bag, it's got his name right on there, just in case he loses it. Nicely detailed. Most of the accessories will fit in there. I don't think all of them will, but most of them. And then finally, he has a pointing finger and a gripping finger. And this is perfectly sculpted along with the can of spinach to fit in his hand like such. So it's sculpted to match with that hand perfectly. So he's got his can of spinach, which I think is also nicely detailed. And he's got a whole can as well. So you can do the before and after with him. This hand will also hold his spyglass, which actually has a little lens on there, and it actually functions, so you can close it down and open it back up. I love how Mezco does that. They have little working pieces. And speaking of working pieces, one last thing, he has a compass. So it actually opens and closes. Very sweet. Very nice little touches there. And he's got his pea coat that I had kind of a little bit of trouble getting it on. It's not like the easiest thing to work with. Like it's kind of like sitting back on him. The arms are where it's tricky. It does have Velcro here, so that as you're putting it on, you can get his big fat forearms through there. But it's still kind of tricky to just get it to sit right. Even up in the biceps, it's a little tight. So I think, you got to spend some time and really work on it to get it looking really good. But I think it fits pretty well. Like, I think it's got to be kind of tight for it to fit well like that. So a little bit of like messing around with it, screwing with it a little bit, and you'll probably get it to look pretty decent. Last but not least, he comes with the usual 5-inch Mezco stand. This one's got the Popeye anchor on it. It feels a little narrow. I don't know, like the logo, the anchor feels a little narrow, like almost stretched this way, but otherwise it's nice, crisply painted, very standard with the Mezco figures. And of course it comes with the arm. And getting a look at the articulation, his neck has quite a bit of movement. It can angle forward that far, and then his head can tilt forward as well, and then his neck can come back this far, and his head can look up this much. There's a side-to-side movement. In fact, it can go pretty far. You just might get a little weird gappiness down where the neck meets the upper torso, the collarbone there. But lots of good movement in the head. Very expressive figure. You can get a lot going on with this guy. The shoulder has a pretty good range moving upward this way. And it'll swing pretty much all around. I don't think there's any upper bicep swivel. I can't get it to turn when his arm's down. When he's up like this, I can get it to turn, but I think it's turning at the joint, not at a swivel at the top there. And then you can inch his sleeve up a little bit and take a look at the elbow articulation. There is just a single hinge there on the elbow, but it moves a decent amount for a single hinge. Obviously, it's going to get caught up because he's got his muscles there, but it does swivel at where the joint meets the elbow there. Lots of good range of motion on this hinge and swivel wrist joint, so you can kind of angle it any way you want. And then the upper chest has a crunch forward that much, and then a crunch backwards quite a bit. It'll rotate a little bit up there too. So nice range of motion really up there. And then at the bottom, at the waist, there's a nice range too. So he can actually crunch probably almost more than Spider-Man, or maybe at least about the same amount as him. And it does swivel at the waist too. The leg joint, I think it's similar to the shoulder joint where there's not a cut. There's not a cut at the top, but it does swivel because there's a ball joint way up top there. So he can kick his leg way far forward, that much. He can kick his leg backwards like this. He can go out into the splits about that far, not a ton. And then he can, with his double jointed knee, he can do that. He might be able to go a little bit more if you try to get that fabric out of the way, but yeah, pretty good articulation in that knee right there. If you want to take a look at the leg and the knee joint here, you can see that double joint like that. And then the ankle rocks a little bit, kind of rolls around a little bit, but you know, it's not incredible. You know, look at the leg down, you can go out that far and then over that far. So let's do the wide stance test and see how far you can go while being flat. About that much is where he's flat-footed still. It's just one of those typical things with Mezco products is they tend not to have a lot of ankle articulation because that can sometimes mess with the look. Like that boot, it's almost hard to see where the cut is unless you're really moving it around and looking. So decent job of pairing up the seamless look with the nice articulation. I think Popeye has a very good amount of articulation for a Mezco, and I'm quite happy with his articulation. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out the other DorkLair videos, including my review of the Mezco 112 Dark Side. Find links to the DorkLair Collecting Podcast and our social media in the description below. And may the Force be with you. DorkLair!